I was fed this example on Instagram. You can see the suggested post, and this just stopped me in my tracks, and it looks like it's done the same with a few other people as well. It's had plenty of likes. So let's figure out how to make this together. I'm going to be using SketchUp as my basic modeling tool, and then I'm going to use 3ds Max and Chaos Corona for my rendering elements, and I will use the Chaos Cosmos browser as well to populate some of the bits and bobs in the scene. So I'm just going to split my screen, and I like to just rough the thing out first. What are we thinking there? Width wise, looks 3-4 meters, something like that. Maybe the depth, let's do 4 by 10 meters just to give us plenty of space. Offset to give us a thickness. That wall thickness looks mighty actually, doesn't it? So let's do something like 600. Let's just drag that over a little bit more now to give us a bit of space. It's quite a tall volume as well, isn't it? And then it looks like we've got an opening there. I presume it's got to be a window, hasn't it? I can't see a frame, but although you can see a bit of framing on the floor there. So, and of course there's a large opening up there as well. It looks like they both do reach that back wall. Let's then put this island in to just try and give us a bit of scale. Normally the depth of a kitchen counter is 600 mil, but that looks a tiny bit deeper. Let's do 800. You're normally looking about 900 for your counter height. We've then got that reveal. There's a little bit of a gap in the back wall. Let's just give that a bit more depth. Let's just get a scene in. He's when it does that. To avoid that, just use the walking tool. It'll just stop me at the back wall. Two-point perspective, let's just... I'm not too concerned, by the way, about the exact camera angle here. I'm just trying to emulate it as best as possible to give me the right proportions, because we're off at the minute, clearly. That's actually lower than counter height. I think that looks about, so if that's 900, 1800, you know, it's probably 2.5 meters, something like that. So that's starting to feel a little more like it. I think this one's to come down. The window looks huge, so it's probably not the worst idea to just bring that down, maybe a touch more. Really enjoy doing these types of visuals where you just iron it in. It's there's something a little more creative about it. So I think that's roughly our framing. I'd probably like to move the counter over a little. We've got this little recess thing. Let's just throw something in there. Not entirely sure what that is, but we'll get it on. So that'll do. Let's just drop a piercing in. That does feel about right. Let's now give this a little bit of detail. There's not actually not a lot to it. It looks like it's got that waterfall sort of edge to it, so let's do 50mm there. Just push that 100mm just so we're absolutely certain. And then there's a bit of a shadow gap underneath. That looks like the sink is actually on the back wall, doesn't it? This looks like it's just a solid slab. So let's make sure this is in its own group, so we can give it a different texture. I like to just assign some block colours, just so I know I've grouped them correctly. Actually, you know what? Save us a little job. Let's do that. Yeah, we didn't make it a component or anything. And then let's just add that drawer in. Just needs dropping a touch. We've also got that shelf, which doesn't come all the way out. Let's make a window frame. I think I'm going to use, just to keep it simple, going to use one of the existing timber materials. Let's give it 100mm depth before I do that. Looks like it's got a little bit of an offset mullion. Always give you glass thickness. I've gone for 20mm. Now, with it being barely visible on the shot here, I'm just going to put it right at the other end of the. Let's make sure that matches. Yeah, basically put it on the external line just so it's out of view as much as possible. Should explode the frame so I can just drag it up. Never scale when it's going that much. It'll look far too distorted. And it looks like it's got a few horizontals in it. That'll do, doesn't need to be too accurate. And just regroup that. Always group by material. It's a good little thing to live by. Pretty much every rendering program or alternative 3D modeling software, the way we're moving from SketchUp to 3ds Max, they recognise your groups. That looks like that lower frame could be a bit higher. We want to keep these bits of frame in just so we get that nice shadowing. So there we go. That'll do us. It looks like it's probably a bit more recessed into the wall, but that'll do us. So I think the last thing we need to do really for just the purely, basic modeling elements is just the sink. I think we'll have taps. So I just want to model a little sink over here. Actually, you know what, before we do that, I like to just put a little curved edge on them like that. Don't need to worry too much about accuracy because it's going to be in the distance. Well, we may choose to come in a bit closer, but that will do us. Sorry, one last one. Just give it a little edge. Like that. Not metal. Let's just do a grey. I think we should have enough clearance at the back there for the taps to go. It actually looks like this might even span further like that. maybe even higher. So that sort of distance I'm a bit more comfortable just scaling it up like that. But again, from left to right, let's do it the proper way. And then just line that up with the window below. Pop a little ceiling on. So that's us blocked out. Then before we export our geometry to 3ds Max, just want to use this little plugin called Round Corners. Before I do that, let me just SketchUp model and just save that. I shall share this in the description as well. There'll be a little link to download the finished model. So let's select all that. If you look at the precedent, it's actually got quite rounded edges there. So we want to emulate that as best we can. So the offset wants to be, say, a 10 mil. Let's have a look. Let's go one more and do 20 mil. Let's really exaggerate. Yeah, I think that looks really good. The way these like Mediterranean type homes are built, you know, it's all kind of handcrafted, hand rendered, if you like. So that's where you get these lovely soft edges. We might have gone maybe a click too far with it. I don't know why. Oh, hold on. Is that? Oh, that face might have been created by that action. Let me just unhide last. Yes, it was. And then we've got a flipped face there, so we need to just turn on hidden geometry so we can select it. Reverse. Obviously want the floor to be a separate material, so we'll group that separately. Let's also give it a little thickness. Or actually, just to prevent any light leaking through, let's just extend it. I thought I was outside the group. So that's interesting. I think that'll give us quite a nice look, actually. Then, while we're using this plugin, let's apply a smaller number to our kitchen unit. Nothing in life has a perfect 90-degree angle. Okay, was a little warning there, but it looks like we got away with it. You need to turn hidden geometry on because once you've created those curved corners, the actual face kind of just bleeds then everywhere. So you need to just turn hidden geometry on so you can then select the kind of sub elements, if you like. Okay. So I think that's good to go. Let me just change that. Let's now bring this into 3ds Max. Not before, just double checking that actually we're not perfect. I've just realised we're not perfect with the bottom there. See the way there's a bit of a reveal there, but there isn't at the bottom. But we've done the rounded corner now. We could, just out of interest, I'll delete that as well. Again, you could use hidden geometry and just kind of pull that out, and there's a few other little tricks we could do, but I think we'll live with that. We'll live with that because really what we should do is actually undo those actions, pull that bottom bit out, and then redo the round corners. But it's not going to make or break the image. We've still got a nice deep windowsill there to put some ornaments on and planting and stuff like that. So I'm just double checking. I think that's everything. Okay, so export. I like to do let me just do export. I like to do a 3D DWG file, faces and materials only. Although we don't really use the materials, but anyway, it's fine. And then I import as a legacy AutoCAD because it recognizes components, and actually I've just found it's less buggy. Yeah, so where are we? Export, merge, it's fine. You'll find it brings in the camera view. We obviously don't want that because we want to create our own. So let's start with a new Corona camera. Hit C to jump into it. We also want to activate safe frames, so we know what we're working to. And then we want to change the orientation so that the width is 720 and the height is 1280. We will, let's do custom. I forget what the other one is now, 1080, 1920. So it's the perfect sort of social media view. And then we'll just drop that to 720 now and it's locked in. There we go. That probably isn't as tall, but we'll keep to that. Then we want to change the method there from, instead of field of view, we'll change it to focal length. And you'll find that you'll need higher values for vertical shots. Although we do want to move back a little bit. So we do want to be a little stricter now. I actually think I do want to just change that to be not so vertical. Let's do like 900. Just because we weren't fully able to get the angle spot on. So let's just drag that over. You can obviously see the front end of it there. but a little higher off the ground. So that's not bad. Let's again save that off. Nothing worse than losing your work when you're halfway through it. Let's then select our camera again. So focal length 50mm, I think that works well. And then we want to turn on this automatic vertical tilt shift. Not a lot happened there, but if I turn that off and just look up and see the way everything tapers, whereas you want everything to be 2-point perspective like that. %99 of architectural photographers, they keep to a 2-point perspective. All vertical lines are vertical. That's obviously how we see it, you know, the human eye. Now, let me hit M and we'll create a very simple Corona physical material. Select all and assign. Then I like to use the, sorry, not the converter. We don't need to do that. I like to use the standard glass from the Corona library. We have 2 libraries to work with. We've got the Corona one and we've got Chaos Cosmos, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Drag that over. Hit P for perspective to come out your camera. Open those groups. Okay. Now let's see what a Corona sun will do for us. If it's not working, we will then revert to a HDRI, but sometimes it does. It's very high and it's very much just from the left. With maybe ooh, that's probably going towards that wall, isn't it? So Corona sun is over here. So just a very slight. It's not fully behaving as I was expecting there. Anyway, we'll just grab our target. That's not bad. Probably wants to go a touch higher. Then in the settings of the Corona sun, simply add the Corona sky environment. Intensity, I like to really drop that. 0.2. Size, let's double it. Softens the shadows. And the great thing about Corona is there aren't many settings. We do want to turn the denoiser on, but we'll wait until we're a bit more advanced. Let's see where we're up to. So that's not bad, but it is lower. It is a lower angle. We probably won't get that break in it as well. There must be something a bit further beyond that window, but we're getting the right idea. Another lovely trick as well with Corona is the ability to make little colour grading tweaks within the frame buffer. So dropping that makes it cooler. So let's lift it to 8,000 and you can see straight away we're getting that bit of warmth now. I think the sun wants to increase in size as well. And I think we'll get away with a Corona sun. I don't like that we can see through the window there. We might just put a, well, not might, we will put an object in there. Let's just put a simple box. Just so we're not looking at nothing, and we'll just give it the same material as the rest of the scene. That's looking better. It's as if it's got a glass roof though, isn't it? Let's just hide that and just see. That's more what we're after, isn't it? So we might just leave that off. Only for the purpose of the image. Obviously in reality you wouldn't have a building with no roof on it. So let me just unhide all. And we'll just simply do away with that. Just for the purpose of this one image. We're not thinking too much beyond that. Another little trick for you is you can drag the environment that we've created through the sun into your material editor. Make sure it's an instant so any changes are replicated within the environment. And turning clouds on just gives you a slightly softer light. Reduce them to 0.3. That'll do us. We may mess with the warmth further. Let's wait until we've done some materials. Let's drop the intensity to 0.1 as well. Now we can mess with the colour of the sun as well. So if we lift the colour of the sun, that's actually gone cooler. Let's have a look. Yeah. That was why my instinct earlier was to go down. That's interesting. Let's leave it at 4,500. Okay, now what we want to do is drop in some materials. So the first protocol is to use the, where are we? The Corona material library. I think these are the best in terms of inbuilt. Sometimes you can touch lucky with finding one. We will cover a bespoke material shortly. I'm liking that one. The use of inbuilt materials where you can massively speed you up for obvious reasons. So let's use those two. I think they're really nice materials. We've just got those slight little tone difference. Let's select these three. Sorry. And then isolate. Love this feature in 3ds Max. Open recursively. And then we're going to use the oak for the counter. Like so. And then the pine for the front facing. Let's bring in a brushed metal for our sink. Okay. And then what we need to do is we need to apply a UVW modifier. And it normally works when you just hit all the ones. There we go. Look at that. Okay, so we just don't do that. So I just want to use the gizmo to rotate. We want that on a vertical line. Let me turn my angle snaps on. 90 degrees, there we are. Lovely. Then you can copy that. Paste it as an instance there, spot on. Paste it as an instance there. If we then decide to change the scale, they all come with. While we're there, I think let's paste it not as an instance but as a copy. Just saves us a few steps. And again, the grain is laid vertically. So let's just do that to 90. I think that's really nice. Copy. Paste as an instance. The floor would be nice if we had something in here as well. Looks like a... Let's go for a concrete with a bit of warmth to it. Weathered, possibly. That's nice, isn't it? That'll probably do the job, actually. And then we'll reserve our bespoke texture for the walls. Again, modifier list, UVW, box, and then normally 111 works for you. Oh, let's also use, so copy that, the oak for the window frames, lovely oak window frames. Love that. Save. See what we're up to. How quick are those previews as well, by the way? So that's nice. Floor's probably a tiny bit rougher than we like, than the example, apologies. Just turn the strength down there. It's better. Okay, so save again. Now, for the wall, let's create ourselves a new material. And we're going to use the rammed earth section on probably my favourite texture website, Polygon. Doesn't need to be 8K, 4K will do you. You can see from the preview there, it's not exactly the same, but it's not far off. I prefer specular workflow. Let's download it. Good bit of admin is to, in your folder, create yourself a little textures area. I'm going to be dead simple, just call it walls. And then once you've used this texture, I would then recommend you create a central library and drop it in there. If you've got enough space, you could do a copy so this project doesn't lose its file paths. But if not, then I would then relocate this folder to a central database. You could create like maybe a Dropbox account or something and have a central Dropbox. That's what we do. But we do also have a server. And if you do lose your links, by the way, download this little addition to 3ds Max, which is called Relink Bitmaps. And if you change folders, you use that to then relocate them. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's get rid of this sphere. Hit M for our new material, Corona Physical. And then let's scroll down to our slots. Very, very easy stuff. Color. Into color. Your normal goes into bump. Let's Just make sure that it's following. Yeah. Now, the option there is roughness. Let me just double check. Let's just see what the metalness workflow gives us. What have we got? So we've got a gloss map there and a specular map there. A roughness map is the inverted version of a gloss map. So if this download doesn't give us a roughness map by default, is that finished? Yeah. Let's have a look. If it doesn't give us the roughness map, we can create it in Photoshop, is what I was going to say. But there we go, roughness map. So it's very important to distinguish these two. Let me just show you them. So that's a gloss map and that's a roughness map, and you can see the inverted versions of each other. So let the program kind of tell you that. So there's our rough. So so it's got a roughness slot. So roughness there. That'll do us for now. Let's apply that. And by the way, if you didn't see it, if it doesn't change colors, go into the color map and do show in viewport. Now this might have a different UVW mapping amount than our standard Corona materials. Just be mindful of that. Let's do something like 5,000, let's say. Because it's box, you just replicate it for them all. We're not a million miles away there. I think it's a tiny bit too beige, so I'm just going to take a bit of that colour out of it. You can actually do that here. See if it changes. Oh, there we go. That's a little quicker than jumping into Photoshop, I suppose. That'll do us. We'll leave Photoshop open. We'll probably use it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that's working. So I'm just selecting them and then I'm going to invert the normal. What's happened there? And I was saying that with it being brighter, it actually is. It's when it's darker that it's not. I just noticed that we were getting a bit of weathering down there, but it does look like it's working, I suppose. So I think that will do us for now. Maybe just drop the Where are we? So if we increase the lightness of the bump map as well, it'll just reduce its effects. And then the last thing I do want to pop in is a displacement map. It normally works out the box, let's just see. Nope. So there's just a few things that were hitting us a little bit there. So when I was in the editable mesh mode, I didn't deselect polygon and then jump back to UVW map, and then the mapping is back visible. So that's number one. Number two, the bump setting is also up here as well. I must admit I'm a little more used to the legacy materials with the settings there. So the base bump, the strength is affected here, so I've dropped it to 0.2, and the displacement, the actual strength again, is up here. So you'll see here there's a little preview that was set at 500. Let's see what 200 looks like. We're getting the right effect though. That is what we're after, but that was obviously far too severe. We may find a little bit of awkward geometry happening there as well. So I'll still be, just to minimize the impact of some of these little weird things happening. I just want the effect to be subtle. I say just to minimize bugs. So that'll do. So you can see the way it's probably not as severe as there, but you can see the way now we're getting little surface imperfections. That texture is spot on. Okay, love that. We're getting a little bit of too much exposure there. So if we do like -1 in the frame buffer, we're getting a little bit of something there. This output transform is good as well in that it just lifts the shadows a little bit. So 0.5 is not a bad number. -0.1. Oh, sorry, -0.1. -0.005. Contrast, set that to 2. I do like a slight magenta tint, but again, just 0.05 will do us. And I think -0.5 on the exposure. So we were getting quite high exposure levels at the top here. And something that, after just a little bit of tinkering, something that I found that's worked is actually just applying a simple material to the top of this windowsill, a darker material. It stopped the light like really bouncing off it. You can kind of see how we're getting a bit of strange line work there as well that's coming through from SketchUp, but it doesn't seem to be actually in the geometry. Another alternative, rather than messing with that, is to actually just drop in a simple box. And let's just reduce the colour to just dark grey. And we obviously don't want it to be visible from the camera. We also do want it to be, we do want it to cover as much as possible. So let's just select the sun target. Move it over a touch more and make it a touch. It can be so fiddly. See, right now we're just reducing the effect of that bouncing everywhere. I actually think the displacement can come down now as well. Let's just do like 20 mil. Hopefully that reduces the amount of bugs we're getting as well. Sorry, what we haven't got as well, this is a new sun. I was just having a little play with how to get rid of that bounce. Lighting, let's just add the sky. There we go. Is it the fact that we've not got a lid on it as well? I do think that's helped, actually. Let's maybe go -1 with the exposure. I actually think there's something up with the geometry as well. Let's just see if a normal modifier helps. This just flips the normals and unifies them. Just flip them back. going to just try one more thing, which is to just create that in its own group. Okay. Give it a thickness. Paste that back in. Make sure you use paste in place. Call it walls 2. There we go. So it was a dodgy bit of geometry, it would appear. So there's a little solve for here. I will keep that there though to reduce the bounce lighting, but fingers crossed now. We can get on with our lives. Copy that mapping. Paste instance. Let's get rid of that as well, because we do want the appearance of lighting is coming from all around. Okay. Let's also bolster the displacement a little. 50. I do want to see more intensity from the sun as well. And actually, oh, that's so much nicer. Let's reduce the size of it. Just so we're getting slightly cleaner lines. I'm actually not against. Let's just do -2 then. Boost the contrast, and let's just build some of this back in. -0.05. -0.05 again on the saturation. And a nice trick for these things is a little light behind the camera. Where are we? Intensity wants to be really low. It also just wants to be a plain white as well. You don't want it to affect the colour. We also don't want it to be visible in reflections. Visible at all, really. Choose the top view to make sure it's definitely behind the camera. It just gives a bit of lightness to the foreground. If I just turn that off, you can see how high contrast the floor is there. Let's maybe even do 10. It should just soften the turn it on, eh? Yeah, there we go. So it's just not as dark on the foreground there. Although we are getting a little bit of darkness on the kitchen unit. So what I will do is I'll just narrow it. There we go. So it isn't as light on the kitchen unit. I'm also nervous now that other geometry is a little dodgy. I'm actually tempted, just because we're getting this like black area down there. I'm just going to do the same. Just give that a thickness. Pull that out. So we've got 3 groups. We don't want to bring in the end one, no. Walls 3. I think that looks better already. Get rid of the camera that brings in. Copy that. Oh. And we're golden. Although we got a bit of a seam there. Shouldn't really be showing a seam. Let's ignore that for now and finish off with some assets. And we'll keep it simple by just using the Chaos Cosmos browser. Let's not waste time on an update. Not that. And we're not going to be too precious on what we select. It'd be nice if we could get something similar. When you bring in an asset, it just puts it in the origin of the model, so we'll just keep firing away. Oh, that was nearly a cracker. Let's just bring in that set, but let's say I don't want to be too perfect with it. Kitchen. Let's use that for the chopping boards. Although, might we find something in here? That's nice. That'll go with the look and feel. Choose a set. Not really, but that'll do. Let's put a little Peter on the end, just something to jazz it up a little bit. These are quite cool to just add a little bit of life. And then what we want to do is bring that tab in. So that'll do us. Just do F for front, and let's just put it all to the height of that unit there, just to give us a bit of an easier life. And then it's a case of just quickly distributing them. Let's get them at the height of that. So F for that front view, T for top view. I think just copy them, rotate. Like that, and then I'm going to actually use a little version of this, but scale it down. Yeah, that looks all right. And just fingers crossed that doesn't look too obvious when we're looking through the camera. Oh, I didn't see the chopper board. Let's just go back to, where are we, kitchen. Oh, that looks good. You know what, that'll say it was a bit better, I think. Let's drag that along just so there's something filling the space there. Let's make this a bit bigger. Now what I'm thinking of doing is just dropping the camera a touch and just move it to the right as well, just so we see more of the front of this island here. Okay, and then in our render settings, I want that locked. Let's do 2000 by 1400. Let's just clear that up. So 1400, nice. In the scene, I like to do a time limit really. So let's just do no longer than 20 minutes. Denoiser, sorry, the one above. Corona, high quality. Depth of field, probably not too worried about depth of field. We're nothing too in focus. So I think that'll do us. It's mainly about the time limit and the noiser and the resolution. Hit save. Now, just before we get into this, because it looks like it's going to be a nice visual, these little seams will rescue that in Photoshop, no worries. I just want to make a couple of little tweaks to I think the floor could be a tiny bit lighter. Let's just go into the output. Just lift that a little bit, okay. I also love the light that's coming on onto the island as well, so I just wonder whether let's just see if we can get it slightly more. There we go. If anything, so I'm sorry to be a little bit of a perfectionist here. I actually think let's drop that. Just a tiny bit lower. And that'll do us. I'll see you once this is rendered. Okay, so we're rendered. Just a couple of little things to mention. I did, to get rid of the seams, it was to do with the displacement. And I just used this little slider here. I just pushed it out by 10 mil, and that's the distance that the displacement is set to. So got rid of that seam. Another quick one. I created another view here, and I added a bit of depth of field. And to add that, it's very simple. Just in the camera settings, depth of field, motion blur, enable, override the focus, and select the object that you want to focus on. And then you simply mess with the f-stop value to increase or decrease the effect. Let's now drop these into Photoshop to finish us off. There's that visual I was just talking about. I like to duplicate the layer, Control J. And then just have a little play with exposure, contrast. Maybe just warm it up a little bit. Just a little 3 and a 3 there. Lift the vibrance, but drop the saturation a little bit. Increase the texture so it adds a bit of sharpness. Same with the clarity. And dehaze, sorry, easy for me to say. Add a tiny little vignette. That does that. Look how realistic that looks. I then go one more by duplicating that layer again, and then add a nice cinematic filter. The top 10 are normally a little dramatic, so I like to just use one of these ones. So something like that will do us. And then just 50%. And there we are. I'll just call that close-up underscore post for post-production. This one might need a little more work. It feels a bit washed out at the minute. I don't think I want to lift the exposure. If anything, drop it a touch. Bit more contrast. Drop the highlights as well, just so we can see a bit more detail where the sun is, and then lift the shadows. Oh, that's quite nice, isn't it? Maybe just subtle. Maybe on this one's got a tiny bit of sharpening as well. That's not bad. We've still got a little bit of seams there, but it's not too bad. Actually, what I should have done was push out that back wall as well by the same amount. See the way we're getting a bit of shadowing there? You could probably just clone that out. Really. You could do the same over here as well. I think my sample was a bit too far away. So you can see how you can really fine tune that. Maybe just lift the brightness a little bit. And a tiny bit of lightness as well. If we go to our precedent, we're not a million miles away. Maybe the colour balance could be a bit better. So if I do colour balance here, oh, I'm in the wrong. There we go. So there's just a bit more yellow, you can see that there. Maybe a touch more green as well. So that's a bit of a closer match. This darkness here as well, maybe just use the burn tool. Just to darken that off a touch. But it's not bad for the length of time we've spent on it. So that's it really. Hope you've enjoyed it. And if you want to learn more about Chaos Corona, we've got 2 courses, one dedicated to exteriors and the other dedicated to interiors. If you want to learn more about that, please head to ArchAdemia.com. Nice one.